Hello, I am Zui and welcome to my channel. This is the first of a hopefully long-running collection of short audiobook-like readings of the Honkai franchise's lore text. We are right at the launch of Honkai Impact 3's Part 2, so I'm going to start off with the pieces that are featured in the lore of Oxia Citizen Services. One of these pieces is mentioned in the main story and is presented to you, but the other two are fascinating as well. Thanks for listening to my short intro, and in the future I probably will skip these. And here I present to you the history of Oxia City. This is an introduction to source matter by Youyun, the 11th director of the Data Research Institute. When someone asked me to write an introduction to source matter for the newly completed Antares Building Civic Hall, I was actually against it. It's not that I have any biases against the requester. It's just that this topic lacks sufficient allure for any adult in Oxia. Would you be interested in an introduction to tap water or natural gas? But upon further thought, similar to electricity, tap water, or natural gas, source matter indeed forms the basis for our daily lives. In fact, the natural gas you burn at home is refined from source matter. The Civic Hall sets it up alongside the Great Eruption and Oxia's history as concepts of similar significance, and this perspective on addressing societal issues is indeed commendable. So I will now directly excerpt several paragraphs from textbooks to help everyone recall the basic knowledge about source matter. Source matter is a peculiar substance in the sea of data that can be transformed into tangible materials needed by people through special programming methods. Source matter often contains a certain amount of data itself. Hence, Oxia uses the term sea of data to refer to the space that houses them. Generally speaking, source matter is a shapeless and unstable existence that needs special devices for purification, concentration, and cannot be stored for long periods. It must be transformed into specific conventional substances to achieve stability. However, occasionally, source matter may also be influenced by the sea of data, organizing into more complex material forms including complete data fragments, specific objects, and even humans born out of thin air. In the spatial zones where source matter is amassed within the sea of data, people can use the extract and collect it by in situ leaching, with the corresponding device being a pipeline-type extractor. Whereas in other spaces, people can use magnetic filtration to directly extract source matter from the ether in the sea of data. Although the latter has a smaller single-device output, its application range is broader. Although lacking in stability, source matter that has not yet decayed can be highly compressed and placed in specially made containers to be carried and transported by unmanned drones or collection personnel. There's no need for complex logistics systems like other goods. There is currently no evidence proving the existence of source matter before the Great Eruption. In fact, the Data Research Institute speculates that the Great Eruption itself is the main cause of source matter, or even the sea of data. A Brief History of Oxia by Wenlan, the 15th Mayor of Oxia. Great Eruption. This is the most fundamental paradigm shift in human history since recorded time. In those fleeting years of the passing stars, the world transformed from a vast planet into a universe within a fruit core. Our homeland thus became the sole city in the world, the sole factory, the sole technological research institute, and the sole custodian of culture, disregarding those physical hypotheses, at least in our own cognition. So, if one were to summarize the history of Oxia since the era of relocation with a short essay, then perhaps contrasting it with the pre-eruption era would be a more intriguing choice. From my perspective, if we were to compare the history before and after the Great Eruption, we can clearly see two characteristics of Oxia. Firstly, compared to our ancestors, we prefer to maintain the institutional forms that originated before the Great Eruption, even though the substantial content has already undergone tremendous changes due to the environmental endowment of the bubble universe. Secondly, corresponding to this, the social changes that thoroughly altered people's way of life in the early era of relocation are also embedded within these forms. forming indisputable new traditions. For example, the current Oxia Data Research Institute integrates a series of functions such as urban management, industrial production, education publishing, and financial services. And people consider all this as a matter of course. But before the era of relocation, it was indeed just an insignificant, temporary research institute, also known as a research mobile station, within the Antares University with fewer than 20 members. Compared to the history before the Great Eruption, the history of Oxia is unique. Only when we realize this point can the history after the era of relocation appear in the correct light before us. Now, let us review the significant events that Oxia has experienced from the birth of human civilization to the 99th year of the era of relocation. In the year 1235 of the Old Calendar, immigrants from the Phoenix continent established Antares City. In the year 1322 of the Old Calendar, with the development of Antares City, the name Oxia appeared in records for the first time. In the year 1683 of the Old Calendar, Antares City was destroyed by the Taiyi Empire, but later rebuilt. In the year 1758 of the Old Calendar, the Antares region separated from the Taiyi Empire and established a city-state. In the year 1815 of the Old Calendar, the Antares Republic declared permanent neutrality. In the year 2185 of the Old Calendar, the Great Eruption occurred. The following year marked the first year of the era of relocation, and Oxia City was established. In the third year of the era of relocation, the Data Research Institute established a new system combining industry, academia, and research. In the seventh year of the era of relocation, Oxia City held its first mayoral election. In the 24th year of the era of relocation, Oxia City achieved industrial development based on source matter. In the 30th year of the era of relocation, Oxia City completed the transformation of agricultural intensification. In the 57th year of the era of relocation, Oxia City achieved universal health insurance. In the 72nd year of the era of relocation, Oxia City achieved universal free education. In the 96th year of the era of relocation, Oxia City established a comprehensive welfare system. About the Great Eruption by Shuanglin, the 16th mayor of Oxia. There is a viewpoint that considers the so-called Great Eruption as an exaggeration. In their eyes, apart from the change in the world's dimensions, the disaster of over a century ago has had little effect on the citizens of Oxia City today. I won't say this is an erroneous view, but it does not help us understand our true situation in the universe. Present-day Oxia is like an independent bubble universe. This means that, compared to the external galaxy we cannot currently reach, it has its own independent length, width, depth, and even time. Therefore, I suggest that all citizens of Oxia, who have lived in this environment since birth, imagine this. In the past, there was an extremely glorious civilization, which simultaneously possessed hundreds of cities much more prosperous than Oxia today. The Great Eruption was a terrifying disaster that systematically erased them. Let's rewind time back to the 33rd day of the 14th month of the year 2185 of the Old Calendar. The scholars of the Old World had predicted this day's arrival. After thousands of years of brewing, a force of dark energy, unstoppable by humans, tore apart the entire world on that day, exposing the sea of data to everyone. Originally, according to those scholars' calculations, every world sheltered by the anchor of the apocalypse had a chance to survive independently as a bubble universe. But reality is far more cruel than theory. We have no way of knowing the fate of other cities. At least, the sea of data that appeared before our ancestors is constantly eroding the land beneath our feet. In just a few months, Minghai and Baiyu had turned into ruins, and the surviving Langqiu and Oxia were also on the brink of destruction. Of course, we eventually managed to overcome these difficulties, but the price was the land, wealth, and even the lives of our ancestors. In order to resist the Great Eruption and fend off the erosion from the Sea of Data, Oxia was forced to transform the entire Langqiu into its foundation. The people of that era almost gave everything to secure a comfortable and free living space for us today. The Great Eruption did indeed happen. Such disasters may happen again one day in the future. I know that with the self-reliance and strength of Oxia, many people believe that this history is long gone, and today's society is peaceful and prosperous. But all of this is precisely the result of our collective efforts, not the natural state of the world. Building a happy life often takes decades, but destroying it may only take a moment. Born in adversity, died in comfort. This is an ancient saying from Phoenix Continent, and I hope every citizen of Oxia still remembers it. Thank you for listening to the end. I will be transcribing and recording much more of the lore as we encounter it in the main story, and especially if there's anything you'd particularly like narrated, please do let me know in the comments. I will be going on a long business trip to China soon, but I just wanted to get this first piece out there while the setting is kind of still fresh in everyone's minds. I will have one of my microphones and my external recorder with me, so it's entirely possible that I'll be able to record while I'm out, but obviously I'll just be more busy, and maybe don't expect the nice studio quality recording that I'm able to do at home. If you don't want to miss these lore audiobooks, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribed. And if you want to hear me actually yap about the lore, I do stream my playthroughs over on Twitch. All the relevant links will be in the description below. And thanks again for watching. Oh no, this is of the Great Eruption. The Great Eruption in their case is not actually to do with the Honkai eruptions that we know in Honkai Impact 3rd Part 1. The entire world in this case is Luoxing, so Mars, which is comprised of a whole bunch of worlds, and in the Great Eruption, many of the worlds fell off the imaginary tree into the Sea of Quanta. These are all constructs that we are familiar with in Honkai Impact 3rd Part 1. The Seven Shoes took Langqiu, sacrificed it essentially to be a foundation, and then Oxia is the one remaining part of Luoxing that is surviving today without any negative consequences of the Great Eruption, because Langqiu is holding it up from underneath. I assume it's something along the lines of an ether anchor, which we know from Durandal visual novel and Honkai Impact 3rd. Those are all kind of like metaphors, but it's essentially what is happening is that there's the sea, which consumes everything, and worlds can kind of align themselves with either the imaginary tree, where worlds flourish, or the Sea of Quanta, where there's just kind of chaotic energy, and it consumes everything, and everything becomes like information, data, narratives, stories, something along those lines.